Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Guest List podcast. Today is a solo episode, and I thought I'd discuss a few things today that I've perhaps picked up and learned over a number of years, really, but perhaps more so since I've started running the 12-week recruitment mastery program, and also from talking to guests on this podcast. And if you're an avid listener, if you tune in every week, you will have found that we've covered some of these topics. But I thought it would make a good episode, really, just to highlight some of the things I've learned and what I've picked up. And the basis of today's podcast really is to talk about high performance, but perhaps some of the areas that people struggle with, or the feedback or questions or scenarios that I get asked when we do the fortnightly Zooms and as part of the mentoring and accountability program. So what is it that is stopping people from being successful? What is it that stops people from reaching that next level? And I've picked up on 5 or 6 points to kind of run through today to hopefully get you thinking about whether this is you and whether you need to start putting things in place to improve. First thing that I've picked up on is you don't have a plan. So you don't know what you're doing. You're not sure where you're heading. You don't have a set routine or plan for any given day, week, or month. You're not really sure what you're aiming towards or what you're heading towards. And a lot of the days can muddle into one. Quite often you become distracted because things come through around you, or the new shiny penny turns up and you want to go off and chase that. So the first thing for me would be to make sure you've got a plan and have some focus and some clarity as to what you're looking to achieve on any given day, week, or month. And that's both in work and in life, and having that balance in between. A good place to start is obviously to make sure that it's written down. A plan in your head is quite often seen as a wish. It's not anything specific that you can work towards. So write something down, write your plan down over whatever given time frame. Put your goals in place and make sure that when you come into work and you start your day, that you have an action plan for that day. And I think this backs up the second point. I think what I've found is quite often we as recruitment consultants or salespeople will work towards KPIs, or we'll be given a framework to work around by our manager or the business that we work in. And we work to those KPIs, but actually have no understanding as to why they are what they are, why we're asked to make certain amount of calls or achieve certain amount of starters or interviews, send out certain amount of CVs. We tend to just do them because we're told that's what you've got to do, and that's the expectation of the business or the office or your manager. It's really important that you get to understand the KPIs that work, the KPIs that you should be working towards, and understand why are the numbers set at those levels. I know that if I send out 30 CVs a week and I arrange 10 interviews, I'm going to hit my financial targets. I know that because it's years and years of measurement and planning and understanding of what the sales output achieves. I know I can control the sales output. I can't necessarily control the return or the results. And that's why I know if I consistently achieve the KPIs that I set for myself, the results will take care of themselves. So I think a lack of understanding of what you're trying to achieve and the targets that are set out, whether they're set by you or your peers or the business around you, you've got to understand what it is that they're setting you and why they are what they are. It's not for you to argue whether they're right or wrong. It's for you to understand what those KPIs will achieve should you hit them. We've touched on the third point, and that was distraction. Recruitment and sales, and I think high level performance, what you'll find is the recruiters that excel, the recruiters that are way out there, very rarely get distracted by things around them because they have a central focus, they have a routine, they have a set plan or target that they're looking to achieve. Distractions come in all shapes and sizes. It can be the next new vacancy, it could be an ideal candidate, it could be people just calling for an update, friends, family, it could be that conversation in the office about Emmerdale or Coronation Street, what's happened on the TV the night before. It's about understanding when's the right time to have those sorts of conversations or be distracted, and when are the right times to stay focused and stay in your lane to achieve what you're setting out to achieve. Over the years, I've noticed that distraction can be used as a way to fill time. It could be that you don't want to do certain tasks or you don't enjoy doing certain things. So you go and make the tea round, you walk out and go to the shop, or you ring that client that always picks up the phone and you know you can have a half an hour, 45-minute conversation, but actually it doesn't lead anywhere. It's having that ability to understand where you're spending your time. Are you doing it in the right places? And limiting your ability to be distracted and go off on different tangents. One of the big questions I get asked is, I struggle to win clients. How do you get that client? How do you get that big business? How do you sell yourself to be able to be the go-to person to clients? It always seems to end towards clients or focus towards clients, and it should be clients and candidates because it's a two-way street. And for me, clients and candidates carry equal weight, if not more at the moment. I'd say it's more towards the candidate because the markets that I work in are very candidate-led. For me, this is about communication. And what I've noticed over the years is that more so now, we rely very much on emails, messages, in-mails. It's that sending of a note or a message, and very less or very not as reliant on making a phone call. And I'm old school. I'm more about making the phone call first and then backing it up with a message or an email. I'm not saying one is better than the other or one is right or wrong. I prefer the phone calls. I prefer to have a conversation because you can control a conversation better verbally than you can in a message. Once you've sent a message, you have lost control the moment you've pressed send, and you're in a position where you've got to wait for a response, if that response ever arrives. And I think when we communicate, we quite often gravitate towards the area of communication that we as individuals prefer. So you may be listening to this thinking, yeah, I'm old school. I prefer to make a cold call or prefer to pick up the phone. You might be the one that sends copious amounts of emails on LinkedIn or the mass market email, or you might just prefer to send WhatsApp messages, texts. Whichever is the case for you, it's only right if the person that you're sending the message to prefers that method. And I think we have to get better at understanding that we don't get to decide how our market reacts to us. And the more we can communicate across multiple paths, multiple ways of showcasing what we do, how we do it, and the fact that we're successful with it, actually allows for a much wider audience to respond in a way that they feel comfortable responding. And that's why when I say you've got to have a bit of a balance, some people will prefer not to speak on the phone. Some will prefer messages. Some will prefer emails, letters. Some will prefer to watch your personal brand as you build it on your timeline of your social media and react or respond when they feel comfortable, or they have that urge that now's the right time to get in touch. So when we talk about winning clients and candidates, it's about making sure that you touch multiple points in terms of your sales approach and how you conduct yourself in the market to ensure that your clients and candidates feel comfortable with dealing with you. And actually there's consistent reminders about what you do, how you do it, and what your specialisms are. for them to be able to choose their most comfortable way of communicating with you. A big one for me as well, a huge area that we quite often miss is the reason why we do all this in the first place. What is it that gets you up in the morning to go to work, be the first one in, make those calls, achieve those targets, hit those KPIs, put a plan in place to begin with, and actually go out and communicate to win your clients and candidates? The biggest thing there is the reason why. And we don't often take time to think about what it is that motivates us, what drives us through those dark days, the days where it doesn't quite happen, or we need to pick ourselves up because something's gone wrong. Spending time to understand what it is that motivates you, and also checking whether that is the true motivator. I've often had things that I believe are my reason why and the motivators, and they don't work for whatever reason. It might be a particular holiday or something I want to buy as a treat for myself. It might be buying a bigger house, or whatever it is. You've got to test it. And if you find that it doesn't get you over that hurdle, it doesn't push you to do what you need to do, then your why isn't strong enough to be able to push you towards achieving what you need to achieve. So spend some time thinking about that so that your motivation is higher than anything else and will push you through the dark days. The last point, and this is a big one for me because I think it's growing day by day, and it's becoming something that I think pushes you into being part of the 1%. And that is, recruitment's gone through cycles, in my opinion, and it went from when I first started, where you met every client, you met every candidate, you conducted a proper service, to then having to adjust because I was competing with recruiters from all over the country where they weren't meeting clients, they weren't meeting candidates, and it was very much about a CV sifting service. And I wasn't fast enough because I was going out and meeting clients and candidates, that I had to change my tact in a certain way. What happens when your recruitment service is completely over the phone or via email or messages, and there's no face-to-face contact? You lose that brand and you lose that identity. And I think because so few of us promote our personal brand anyway across social media and showcase what we do and who we are, actually recruitment almost becomes a bit of a faceless process. And for me, I believe personal branding, I believe the ability to create that identity, to differentiate, to become known as the recruiter that's slightly different, or does some things in a different way, or does things in a process that you meet the clients, you meet the candidates, you hold your process over and above perhaps what the norm is. To be able to create that brand, to create that identity, for me, you want to be part of that 1%. And you've got to push towards doing that on a daily basis and finding new ways to innovate and become the go-to recruiter. That comes from very much something we've discussed a few times on this podcast, and that's about being that key person of influence. I think having those thoughts in mind actually help to deliver on all of the other parts as well. So I hope sharing that has been useful to you. If you've listened to that and you felt that some of those points are you, and you sit there and think that is a hurdle that I haven't quite got over yet, or they're things that stand in my way and stop me from achieving my goals, then get in touch, reach out, let me know. If I can help, I will. There's always solutions to the problems. These aren't uncommon. And in my research and my conversations, this is a global effort. These are scenarios that are faced by recruiters day to day, and something that we go far more in depth as part of the training and accountability that we do, and as part of the 12-week recruitment mastery program. I hope it's been useful. I hope it's given you some clarity and given you something to take away and put into practice. I look forward to seeing your comments. Get in touch, let me know how you're getting on, and I will catch up with you at the next episode.